In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey, everyone. How you doing today? Welcome to Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journey, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. It's a segment I've been thinking about for a while now, and I decided to bring it up here in a live first and see what y'all think. It's a segment I'm titling Trauma Talk. And I know a lot of you probably know about Reddit subreddit threads. Am I the a-hole? Am I overreacting? Things like that. People will read them on YouTube just for the drama content. But I decided to take that and kind of do something a little different. I've been exploring some of the trauma threads, the sub-threads. I found a CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder thread, and I've pulled out several questions that people have posed. And what I want to do with Trauma Talk is just kind of read them and react to them, give my input. I'd also love any of the viewers, anybody who's in the chat who wants to comment on it too, and get your reactions as well. And I'm thinking about if this goes well, if you guys are interested in this, doing 15-minute, half-hour videos related to this. I have the window open, so if you're hearing ambient noise, please let me know. That was a motorcycle going by, and I will close the window. But so thinking about possibly just making these into some videos where I address 1 or 2 or 3 questions, and maybe have them be thematic, we'll see. So it's kind of my idea. So something a little different, but still, related to all of the stuff we talk about in regards to trauma. I've got a mix of things today that I pulled out, and how many we go through just kind of depends on how the chat is and, how much there is to say about each individual one. So we'll see how many we go through today. Let's say hello to Crystal is here, as well as Echo. How are both of you guys doing today? Welcome you in this afternoon. I am going to be just reading from a Word document that I pulled these questions onto. And in the future, I may just put them on screen. I don't know. We'll just kind of see how this develops. So the first one that I want to read was submitted by a user BitsBits22, and it's entitled Skin Picking, Fingers, and Cheek Biting. And the reason I pulled this one out is because it's something that we've dealt with rather recently. We had the live that I did on skin picking. And I'm thinking of, I'm not sure if maybe just doing post occasionally in general, just kind of letting people know that the channel exists, just posting on the sub thread, or maybe reacting individually to the questions. I'm not really sure. If you guys have any input on that, happy to hear your thoughts as well. So this question states, I really want to quit these behaviors, skin picking the fingers and the cheek biting. Sometimes I succeed at fighting the urge, but I'm constantly thinking about not doing it as the urge feels like it's a part of me. I'm 53, female. Been doing it my whole life. Worst under triggers, stress, feeling mindless, which can be a whole lot of things. Just wondering about anyone else's experience and if anyone has tips to retrain my brain. So, because this is something that we dealt with recently, I thought that this was pretty, apropos to talk about. Encourage anybody who is interested in knowing more about it to go back to that live that I did on body focused behaviors, and to listen to the live and the presentation that we did on that. But this is very typical of people who have trauma, internal anxiety. It is something that is a stress release. It's a comfort. And in terms of ways to retrain your brain for it, first of all, you really need to understand the behavior. So I go through, in that live, I did a presentation from another YouTuber who has a whole system. And basically, it's thinking about what you were doing before it, what you were doing during it, and what you were doing after it. And it's important to know emotionally, what were you feeling? Physically, what were you feeling? Time, what time of day was it? Where were you? Are you in your bedroom? Are you on the couch? Is it always when you're, watching TV? Understanding the full scope of your behaviors and your placement in the world around this is going to give you a lot of information in terms of being able to help stop these behaviors. So some things you can do to help retrain your brain is, once you understand when, where, how, why you're doing these behaviors, you can begin to be able to catch yourself before it. So do you find that you're doing, if you find that when you're mindless, if you find that when your stress increases, if you find that when you have a particular trigger, that this is something that you start doing, you want to have in place other things that you can do in place of that behavior, whether that is moving out of your physical location of where you are now. Is it going for a walk? Is it doing some breathing exercises? Is it putting on some music? Something else to distract you from doing that behavior, cheek biting, picking, the picking at your fingers. As you have these things in place, and if you just start to feel your stress increase before it gets to that critical point, and you start relying on these other behaviors, you may find then that your default back to the body focused behaviors decreases. So we want to be able to regulate our emotions, calm our nervous system in a way that is not damaging to ourselves, not the cheek biting, the picking at our fingers. You may also find that if there's a particular time of day or particular event that this seems to happen around. If it's picking at fingers, maybe keeping gloves on is going to help. Um, cheek biting, this is something that I suffer with. I've done it my entire life, and it's really difficult because I don't notice that I'm doing it until I'm already doing it, right? I don't notice when I first start to do the cheek biting. If you have anybody else who you live with who can help you in terms of noticing when you're doing it, because sometimes these body focused behaviors become so second nature that we don't even realize that we're doing it. So if you have somebody else who can say, hey, you're doing it, let's do something else, let's refocus your energy somewhere else, that can be really helpful as well. So those are just a few tips that can bring your attention away from the body focused behavior into a different area. And over time, then it can help train you into doing something else and relying on other avenues to relieve your stress, relieve your anxiety, something that's not going to be harmful to yourself. I want to wish you, Audrey, a good evening. How are you doing, Audrey? I hope that you are doing well. And I want to react to something Crystal said on new meds, got letters and get the ball rolling on a surgery that she needs. That is wonderful news. So glad that that went well. Crystal said, for me, the picking of fingers, making a worry bracelet has helped. All it is a beaded bracelet that I can easily take off my wrist to run the beads through my fingers has helped a lot. That's a wonderful idea. There is, whoops, trying to make that go away. There are also things that I've come across, worry stones that you can either just roll in your fingers, or I saw one that you can actually put paint or clay or something to cover it that you can actually pick that off. So instead of focusing that picking behavior on your body, you pick at something else that's totally harmless. Things like fidget spinners can often help, or a lot of tools that have been promoted to the ADHD community. There's some finger rollers, basically like a couple of rollers that you can just roll back and forth, gives your hands something else to do instead of picking. If for the cheek biting, it could maybe using a lollipop or some other form of oral stimulation, a straw that you can chew on, anything else that is simulating a similar behavior, but is not actually damaging your body. Crystal says small fidget toys help also. Absolutely, 100%. Audrey had a peaceful day today. That's wonderful. And Crystal recommends chewing gum. That's a great idea as well. Lozenges, small candies, things that you can roll around in your mouth and either chew or suck on. So anything else to mimic a little bit in terms of the oral behavior, but pull away from actually, biting on our cheeks. So the next one I pulled out is submitted by somebody called Complete Priority 93. It says, was this normal? And I am also, give me one moment, guys. I'm going to put up our trigger warning because some of the ones that I pulled out, since it was a CPTSD thread, are a little more personal, go through a little more detail than some people might be comfortable with. So I definitely want to encourage you, please take care of your mental health. If you feel anything is triggering, pull back. You can listen later on, skip over the part that we talk about that's triggering to you, or simply skip this episode altogether. That's okay as well. So the question, was this normal? So I am 19 now, and my younger brother is 16. When I was about 7 to 9 years old, memory is hazy, so I think it's about that age, and my brother was like 4 to 6. My mom would play a game with us called Naked Couch, where me and my brother would get naked and try to escape the couch together while my mom held us back with couch pillows. This was a repeated thing. Our babysitters also did the same thing. I don't think my dad played this with us. I was always I've always been very hypersexual and interested in the human body since a very young age, starting at around 7 years old or maybe even before that. I used to post a lot of nudes on Reddit, did it all through high school, but now the thought disgusts me. I attribute this to the need to validation. I attributed it, bleh. I attributed this need for validation to my dad's abuse and neglect, but I've always suspected that something had happened earlier in my childhood too. I have big gaps in memory of my childhood. I just asked DeepSeek if this was normal, and it was like, definitely not. I just wanted an opinion from people on this sub, as I'm starting to really question the family dynamic. I think that you have every right to be questioning your family dynamic. This is not something that is what I would consider normal behavior. Again, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just somebody with PTSD, somebody who was SA'd in childhood and as an adult. So I understand trauma and trauma effects. I have no idea as to why your babysitter would have also done this. I don't know if this was somebody who was a family relation or how they would even know to do this. But I definitely don't consider this as something that was normal. And it is concerning to me just in terms of that behavior enough to say that, yeah, something else might have been going on in your childhood. There may have been other forms of sexual abuse going on that you don't remember. You mentioned your dad's abuse, but you don't specify that. You didn't think your dad was involved in this couch game, but 100% not something that would occur in a healthy family relationship. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of blown away. I have no idea as to where that would come from, but it sounds like there may have been more to that. And even if there wasn't, just the nature of getting naked in order to play this game is concerning to me, and definitely can be a source of your early sexualization. This happens very commonly with people who are sexually abused in childhood. We become aware of our bodies in a much different way and for a different purpose at a much earlier age than we normally do. In a healthy relationship, coming to terms with our sexuality, with knowing our bodies as sexual entities, is something that doesn't occur until later on in childhood, usually. At the time, you know, puberty hits, maybe shortly before puberty, when the hormones start going wacko, we start kind of understanding our bodies in a different way. But when we're exposed to things of a sexual nature at such a young age, we become aware of our bodies as such. And this can often lead to us acting out in ways such as you were saying, posting nudes. People can become promiscuous. And this is all definitely a source of validation because we understand that our bodies are useful for its sexual nature. So I think that you're right to question your family dynamic. And if you haven't considered connecting with a trauma-informed therapist, that might be something that you want to look into. Crystal comments, definitely not okay. Sounds like grooming and abuse from the sitters and mothers. Sexual abuse doesn't always need to be touching. 100%. You are correct. Sharing with Shannon, how are you? Glad to see you here this afternoon. Yeah, this is something that isn't talked about as much or may not be as well known in the public at large. Often we think of sexual abuse as being touched in some sort of sexual way, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It is any action that is designed to give the person who is perpetrating it some sort of sexual gratification. So I 100% agree with Crystal that it just doesn't seem like that would be something that happened in isolation outside of any other abuse. You did mention other abuse occurring, didn't specify, but I have a suspicion that there might be much more that happened with your childhood, particularly with you noting that you have gaps in memory from your childhood, which we talked about very recent is extremely common for those of us who went through trauma at an early age. And that's our body's protection mechanism. It is going to either suppress or delete those memories, either permanently or until a time where our body or our brain says it's safe for these to resurface. You're at a point where you can actually process that information. So I 100% recommend that this is something that you might want to explore in therapy and delve a little deeper into your childhood and discovering, kind of dealing with not only that abuse, but also whatever abuse that you mentioned with your dad. Because CPTSD can be formed from multiple events. The complex, people often think of CPTSD as childhood post-traumatic stress disorder, which certainly can be the occurrence, but it can also happen with adults. The C actually stands for complex, meaning this is stemming from more than one overwhelming event. So whether this has been sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, or chronic neglect, these are all sources of complex trauma. So definitely sounds like there's more going on here. Shannon asks a kind of related question. It says, do you believe in recovered memories? Do you think some therapists guided people in directions? Do I believe in, let's take it piece by piece. Do I believe in recovered memories? 100%. And I think the science is now starting to back this up. It's understanding that our body remembers traumatic events and not just neural brain cells, but cells in different parts of our bodies. So the fact that we store trauma in our bodies is now becoming scientifically proven, something that psychotherapy has kind of accepted for years. The science is now backing up. We now understand that when we have overwhelming trauma, that, like I just said, a protection mechanism, our brain is either going to compartmentalize that trauma somewhere where it's not easily accessible, or it's just going to delete that memory completely. If it's something that it's stored, your brain is not going to allow you to access that until it feels comfortable being able to process. If retrieving that memory, it feels is going to be too overwhelming for the body, it's not going to allow that memory to surface. Do I feel that some therapists guided people in directions? I think what you're asking is in regards to false memories. I don't have a lot of experience with this in terms of I haven't done a lot of research into it. Do I believe that it's possible that false memories can be planted? I 100% do. That is why I think that it is critical that when you're trying to deal with trauma that is in your past, that you go to a therapist who is a trauma-informed therapist. They're much better equipped to understand the effects of the trauma, how the trauma is stored in the body, and to be able to guide you through accessing memories in a way that is not going to be overwhelming to yourself. You're not going to remember everything all at once. You may never remember everything that happened. It's also very important to be extremely clear with your therapist as to what are your goals for this? Is your goal to strictly understand what happened to you in your childhood? Is your goal to deal with current effects of that trauma? And understanding the methods by which your therapist is recommending dealing with that or accomplishing your goals. It's a two-way street, and you have to be on the same page. And if you don't click with that therapist, whether you've been with them for a short time or whether you've been with them for a longer period of time, if your goals no longer align, it's time to find somebody who you're going to be able to be comfortable with and who's going to be able to help you reach your goals in a manner that feels comfortable to you. Sorry, guys, I don't have my mouse, so I'm still learning to use my trackpad because I don't use that very often. And Crystal says that she believes yes to both. There have been memories that keep coming up for me, and some therapists will direct things in ways that can or cannot be helpful. Absolutely. I 100% agree. And continue as to what I was saying, Crystal agrees. That's why you need to interview your therapist and know when to stop seeing them if they want to guide you in different ways. Shannon is saying, could you recommend some questions to ask a potential therapist? You know, that would be a good subject for an entire separate live. But I would say first and foremost is that you want to understand their background. You want to understand, are they a trauma-informed therapist? What are their normal methodologies? What are their preferred methods for guiding your recovery? And you want to have clear ideas as to what you want to get out of the therapy. It's very important that you go in having goals. Like I said, is your goal to deal with what you have now? Is your goal to understand what happened before? Is it both? And to really understand then with those goals, what would that therapist recommend? How would they approach that and be comfortable with that approach? So those are some questions that to at least get you started. And Crystal's 100% right. You definitely need to interview your therapist, and you need to become comfortable with them. they could say everything right in terms of their methodology and where they come from and how they approach things, but you may not click with them. The conversation may not flow very easily, and sometimes that's just personality, and so you need to make sure that that happens as well. So just intuitively feeling comfortable with somebody is extremely important, as well. So don't ever be afraid to interview several different people to find the one that you feel that you're most comfortable with. Okay, moving on to the next question that I had. Engineering number 2036 asks, what is this intense, let me say that again. What is this intense emotional release? Today, I just had a traumatic realization about my childhood. I cried so hard and felt really drained, realizing how what me and my mom went through. The crying drained me and my energy so bad, I want to stay in bed all night, but also realizing that and what I needed to do to make me feel calm. Is this something someone who went through a traumatic experience and on the process of healing would feel? Or what is the situation I am in? Please don't hate. 100%, this is an absolutely normal reaction to remembering a traumatic event. Even if we don't remember it as a visual type memory, we can remember it on a visceral level. It can be something that we remember olfactory, smells. It can be sounds. Whatever you remembered from that, crying is one of the ways that our body can help regulate our emotions and get us back down to a calmer state. So reacting to a traumatic memory by crying and feeling just absolutely drained and exhausted afterwards is 100% normal. So you're not going through anything that I think any of us who are here have not been through. I personally have been through this, absolutely. It can be such a release that the feeling of just being absolutely drained and even to the point of being numb afterwards is 100% normal. What's important is that we then move on from that and continue on with our healing process. I don't know enough about your situation to say, really what your next steps need to be, other than, again, I hope that you're in therapy. I hope that you have support, that you have people who are there for you, but trying to move on with our lives and to deal with the effects of the trauma, to have positive coping skills, whether it's through breathing or mindfulness or journaling, is extremely important. So we need to have other skills that we have developed and that we use in times that we aren't actively reacting to traumatic memories to rely on. But initially reacting in the way that you did, there is absolutely nothing abnormal about that and can be very cathartic. Don't be afraid of the tears. Don't be afraid of that numbness that can follow, because it is very, very normal. What you want to be conscious of is if that feeling of being numb, that feeling of just wanting to stay in bed lasts for more than a day, if this is something that is continuing on with you, you've probably entered a depressive state. And this is where we need to latch on to our other positive coping skills to be able to get through that and to be able to deal with that traumatic memory in a way that is not going to be harmful to our mental state long term. Shannon says, I cry and get drained every time a wave comes over me. Yes, numbness is something also that I feel. Yep. 100% normal. Yes, thanks for answering, Crystal. These are questions I got from the CPTSD subreddit, and it's a segment that I've entitled Trauma Talk. And if people like it, if people are getting something from it, if it helps to hear other people's stories and the questions that come up, this is something that I will do in the future. Like I said, I'm also thinking about doing this just as a video, a pre-record, and answering just a few questions, maybe related questions, maybe not, 15, 20 minutes, something of that nature, and do it as a pre-record. Something that can draw people in to help with seeing different situations. Sometimes it is really helpful to see ourselves in somebody else. Somebody else's question might also just ping something for us that is something that we haven't thought of, or is something that we haven't brought up to anybody, that we haven't even spoken aloud to ourselves. And so that's why I thought it's just something I've been thinking about for a while, pulling from these and seeing if it's something that's worth engaging in. So please, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It really helps the algorithm. So if you can like before you leave, and leave a comment. Do you think this was helpful? Would you like to see this done again? Do you think that a pre-record on some of these would be helpful? Some of them are quite lengthy, and that is why I thought doing one or two of them as a pre-record might be more beneficial. So this one's a little bit longer, and it is by a person called Burro Blanco 2003. Stop disassociating, and now emotions are overwhelming. Person states, my therapist has been helping me discover that my trauma is stored in my body and that I am almost constantly dissociated from it and my emotions. I hadn't felt angry or sad in 5 years over anything. All emotions, good or bad, were very blunted. I was constantly carrying muscle tension, which fed into pain, and was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, very common. I started checking in with my body more and trying to be real with myself over the past month. One day after a stressful event, I felt the tension building up inside me as usual, but instead of swallowing it and storing it this time, I let myself cry and I felt better afterwards. Trying to continue the trend of letting myself feel, but it's like ever since then, the floodgates have opened. My emotions are returning and I have no idea what to do with them. I've started snapping at my partner, getting incredibly angry, and crying afterwards at small things I would usually just let go. I cry about random stuff. I get all teary-eyed listening to music now. I can't watch or play violent video games because I'm just so sensitive. It's so out of character because I've always been chill. I feel out of control. It's like I'm a little kid who doesn't know how to handle her big emotions other than to cry and scream. Should I get into some more somatic stuff as an outlet for this rage and sadness? Does it ever get better? I could use some reassurance. I can tell you that 100% this is normal. When we have dissociated from our emotions for so long and we're finally letting them in, we're finally letting our body to feel, it can be very, very overwhelming. You are feeling a whole range of things that you have not felt for years. And so the key is being able to figure out, how do we regulate our emotions now? Soma therapies can be very, very helpful. Talk therapy can be helpful for some. A lot of people do find Soma based exercises extremely comforting and a better way to deal with all of these emotions that are now raging inside of us. Things like breathing exercises, when you start to feel that you're getting angry, if you can stop, if you can take a breath and do some breathing exercises, whether it's box breathing, whether it's longer exhales than your inhales. There's a ton of information out there on different breathing techniques. Journaling can also help. You're dealing with so much going on inside your body that writing down whatever you can feel is a wonderful way to be able to either organize your thoughts or just be able to get it all out. Meditation can also help. It's a way of bringing ourselves back into our body and trying to bring our emotions back down to baseline. Other soma type exercises such as yoga, any of these therapies, I call them therapies, and because they truly are, but art therapy, animal therapy, music therapy, um, anything that is engaging your body in something other than that extreme emotion that you can focus into can be very helpful. Simply getting out in nature, going for a walk, any of this can be extremely helpful. So you are 100% normal for feeling all of this stuff. And it is critically important that your partner understands what is going on for you, that this is not something that you're meaning. You're not lashing out at them in anger because of anything that they have done. Hopefully, depending on the situation, obviously, but it's your reaction to it. And it's something that you're working through. And if they can give you the space and the grace to be able to have time to deal with this and develop these more positive coping strategies, that can be extremely helpful to have that support there from your loved one who is your partner. Shannon says, I remember the first time I felt anger in years. It was a breakthrough for me. Yes. Crystal says, it's extremely overwhelming, but with a safe person, it can really help in healing. Until I learned to feel, I couldn't really start to heal. You need to feel to heal. I love that phrase. Since you've been starting with these body exercises and really starting to get in touch with your body and releasing the trauma from your body, having all of those emotions released, especially when you had been dissociating for so long, is your body's way of bringing you into the present. So I do 100% recommend Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score. He goes through the reasons as to how and why our bodies store these, as well as goes through many different coping mechanisms for dealing with this. So if you're looking for more information, just kind of on the whole process that you're going through right now, that would be a wonderful, wonderful book for you to look at. Peter Levine is also somebody who has written many, many books and is a colleague of Bessel van der Kolk and has dealt with this concept of trauma being stored in the body and what happens after when we start to heal and how to heal. So he would be another source of somebody to look into his work as well as Gabor Mate. I may be saying that wrong, but his first name is Gabor, Gabor. Last name is Mate or Mate, Mate. another person who has done incredible work in this area of trauma and how it's stored in our body, has written many, many books, as well as produced a lot of presentations on YouTube that you might find informative as well. Georgie states, anger was the only emotion I was okay with for a very long time. And 100% common. It's something that we feel safe in. Anger is a way of expressing our emotions, and it can be our default. I certainly know that this was the case growing up. My father, anger was his default. He was either in work mode, father mode, whatever, or he was angry. I mean, that was like, that's the only way he ever reacted. So that definitely became a default for me. And because crying wasn't acceptable, not around him anyway. It took me years of being able to deal with my trauma and really understanding it, understanding where it came from, to be able to feel happiness, to feel joy, and to really be present in those feelings. Otherwise, anger and numbness were definitely my default. Shannon also says, I was too numb. I remember someone saying it was a useless emotion. I think you're talking about the anger, but for me, it was just better than feeling my spirit crushed. Yeah, it can become our default, and it's a negative coping mechanism. So in that regard, some people may call it a useless emotion, but it sometimes can be the only way that we know how to express feeling. It's either numb or it's anger. And like I said, for me, that was definitely the case for me. Shannon, the book is called The Body Keeps the Score. This is it right here, by Bessel van der Kolk. And it's an incredibly informative book. This is probably one of the seminal works on trauma and how it's stored in the body. It's very in-depth. I encourage you, if you do read it, take your time going through it. It's not something you're just going to sit down and read all at once. There can be sections that can be triggering for people. So I encourage you to take your time with it. Let's see. I have on the back, this was $20, $19. Obviously you can get it on Amazon, and pretty much I think most booksellers sell it as well. But take your time with it. You certainly need to, I have a pencil in mind because I am constantly writing notes. And I did a video just not too long ago called The Body Keeps the Score. And it was about thoughts that I had about where I had reread I read this long time ago. But I wasn't as far in my healing journey at the time. And I didn't really understand as much about my trauma at the time. So rereading it through this time, I think that you will find that a lot of the concepts that we've talked about in terms of trauma, what it is, how our body stores it, how we heal from it, it goes through all of it in here. And thanks for putting it up, DeAudrey. I really appreciate that. Yes. And let me type in here. You can also find it in the live that I did called The Body Keeps the Score. But I will put the author That's Bessel van der Kolk. So that's the author's name in there. And yes, it is a rough read. So take your time with it. Make sure you have support, people that you can reach out to if there are things that are triggering in it for you. But again, protect your mental health over everything. But it's incredibly informative. All right, I think we have time for maybe one more. And let's see what else I've pulled up here. So this is by a person called Not Invited, and it says, any advice? So I've recently, unfortunately, recalled a lot of memories about being abused as a kid, and I'm having flashbacks and these horrible sensations like my skin is hot and crawling constantly, like a constant fuzz. It's very unpleasant. I've taken some anti-anxiety medications, but I'm still feeling really freaked out. Does anyone have any good strategies to come back up for air for a bit? I've been spiraling for a few days and it's really doing my head in. I see a therapist, but I'm in between appointments. So, feeling physical sensations from recalling traumatic events again is very common. The flashbacks that you're having, something that is a common trauma effect that many of us have. Some different strategies for being able to come back into your body is anything that you can do that is going to regulate your nervous system. Your nervous system is on high alert right now and it's freaking out. And so we need to try and calm that down. So the things that I've mentioned in the past and in this video, things like journaling, breathing, meditation, yoga, any different types of soma exercises, anything where you're using your body, going for a walk, exercising, dancing. What else am I missing, guys? Give me some other suggestions out there as to what we can do to regulate our nervous system. Any of these types of coping mechanisms are going to be something that can be very powerful. If there's any type of hobbies that you enjoy or things that bring you peace, whether that be cooking or gardening or, yes, other methods of self-care, a bubble bath, Shannon says, taking a nap, treating yourself to some ice cream. DeAudrey suggests bird watching. Anything that you find peaceful, that you find calming. Is there anything that's kind of normally your go-to? DeAudrey says, I get lost in a book if I can. The goal is to bring your focus away from what your body is feeling and trying to calm it down through another means. So any of these types of soma-based exercises can be very helpful. I'm not sure if I mentioned, journaling. Sometimes just talking to the piece of paper can help get your feelings out and be able to bring you back down to baseline. So in between your therapist's appointments, you just want to be able to look towards these things. And I really encourage anyone out there who is looking at any of these methods as a positive coping skill to engage in them in times that you're not feeling overwhelmed, that you're not feeling, in your case, the fuzz, because we want these to be something that we feel comfortable with and that we can automatically go to. And it's trial and error. Not everything is going to work for you. And a therapy that might work at one point in time, and I do use therapy in terms of talking about all of this, anything for mindfulness, the breathing, the yoga, I call them all therapies because they are. You want to be able to be comfortable with them, and what might work at one point may not work for you for something else. Maybe the feeling's a little bit different. Maybe you're feeling it because of a different traumatic memory. And so that's not going to, so it doesn't seem to work. And that's why we need to have a lot of different therapies in our toolbox, all these tools in our toolbox that we can reach for at times that we need them. So don't be afraid because something doesn't work that worked before. It might not always. So reach for something else that's going to work. Reach out to another person. Sometimes just being able to talk through what you're feeling or getting our mind off of what's going on can help just by reaching out through somebody else. Hi, I Can Fly. How are you? Welcome. Yes, as Crystal says, this is a peer support group for trauma survivors and for anybody who wants to learn more about trauma. Right today, I entitled this Trauma Talk because I was reading from CPTSD, which is Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder subreddit, and was just reading out different questions that people had. You can check out the channel in terms of all of our other lives that we've done. I generally tend to focus on one topic. And so this was just a little bit different of a format for today. So if you guys like this, if you want to hear more about this, if you want to hear more stories, more questions, please let me know in the comments. The more action we get in the comments, the more that YouTube thinks that this is something that people want to hear about and pushes it out there. And I'll consider doing either some more lives in this format or also some pre-records. So let me know your thoughts. Just a little something different for today. Great comment. It says, we are a safe space for people to come and have support from others who have been through traumas. And I also want to add that anybody who is interested just in learning more about trauma, who is interested in learning how to support people who have been through trauma, are more than welcome to attend. This is an open space, but first and foremost, it's a safe space for anyone to be able to join and to, as I say at the beginning, come together, connect, and build community, because it's really important that we have people who understand us and who want to support us. In closing today, I want to send out the biggest hugs that I possibly can and all of my love to Chris Malazewski. He was on as our guest as a survivor of a mass shooting event. So you can find that in the live section. We did that in May, and he lost somebody very dear to him today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday, due to an unaliving event, unfortunately. And somebody he was close to. Chris is very active in the mental health advocacy field and never saw it coming. So as I was speaking to him today, he said, just reach out to somebody today. This is my way of reaching out to each and every one of you. You know, if you ever need, please encourage you guys, connect with each other. You can always connect with me, SurvivingTogether, SASS@gmail.com. Eventually, Trauma Talk, we may open up if people want to submit their own questions or their own concerns. I can read them as anonymous and can include those here. If you come across something in one of these subreddits, whether it's mental health or trauma or the CPTSD or PTSD or any of the other subreddit threads that you think is something that would be good to address in one of these segments, please send it to me. I'd be happy to look at it and incorporate it into future trauma talk hours. So with that, I think we'll come to a close. I have some more pulled out that I've got kind of lined up to see if we want to do this again. So please let me know in your comments. If you haven't liked the video already, consider doing that. If you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to. Make sure you hit the all bell for notifications, and that way you'll get notified anytime that we're going live. We are live twice a week, Saturdays at 3 p.m. as of today, and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. all Eastern Standard Time. So I will definitely see you guys at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday with a new topic. And I haven't yet planned out the rest of my week with that, or the month like I had kind of wanted to. As you guys know, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff myself this week, kind of trying to get back to baseline myself. I will share some good news. The company that I had been working for that we were kind of waiting for some more data on, they got approved to give us downtime hours, which means I actually got paid for being off this week. So thank the universe. That is a huge, huge bonus that I was not expecting. How's the book going? It's going. That is something that I have been trying to work on the last few days. I'm a little stuck, but I am going to take a little break after I get off of this live, and that's how I plan to spend the rest of my evening, is working on the last third of the book. And we'll kind of see how that comes out. And so then I'm going to need to go through everything again. And then I think it will be ready to put out to the readers that have agreed to give feedback on it. And then Friday, August 1st, so less than a week, it is due. So cross your fingers. It will be a huge release that it's done and out there. Then we have my GoFundMe fundraiser on August 15th to look forward to, tentatively saying 7:00 p.m. Should be a lot of fun, guys. We're going to have a lot of different creators on. I know Jimena is going to be a part of it. Crystal Phoenix is going to be a part of it. Guy Bandy from Creating Change, who has been on this channel before with how trauma and music can help dealing with trauma. You can check out his live with that. So he'll be on with his guitar, and I'm not sure who else is going to be a part of it, but it should be a really good time. We're going to have a segment, Ask Me Anything. I think we're going to have some oracle readings. And even if you cannot donate, I encourage you, please join us. You can always just share out the link with anybody you have on any of your social media, whether it is through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever you happen to use, TikTok, anything that you can do to share it out and get the word out there to other people is extremely helpful. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart if you do. You guys just being a part of this and supporting me through this has been absolutely wonderful. And I don't get a dedication section since I only have the chapter, but just know that as my plan is to get to the book launch, the chapter definitely is dedicated to all of you who have made this possible. And it's everybody who supports me week in and week out and are here and sharing your stories with me and supporting this channel. You guys make it worth it. So with that, I will say I will see you Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Please remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So hugs and love from me. Mwah. I will see you soon. Surviving together, never alone. Enjoy the outro.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear